Sometimes we'll use donated leftover parts. In fact, the solar panels that are on our Aerosat satellite that's going to be launched out of the International Space Station were donated to us.
About how much? I mean, are you allowed to say, or is even a legitimate way to say, how much does it cost to put in or to put up, like, say, one of the satellites that's up there now?
Well, it depends. If you were...
Let's say material cost.
Well, just to put it together, and we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. But... again, in some cases, that's donated. For example, our Aerosat satellite that's up on the International Space Station, the Progress launch, it was a cargo launch, was donated. The EVA that will take it outside was donated. So basically, we had solar panels, and we had a battery, and we had a few other things that were donated to us. So it was just the time and effort of the troops to put it together. If
you had to pay for a launch vehicle, how much would that cost?
Millions.
Wow.
Millions. But because...
So for no cost...
Literal, very low cost.
A member of the ham radio community, for no cost, could work through a satellite whose material cost is hundreds of thousands of dollars, volunteer.
Yeah.
The launch cost is millions of dollars,
and that's
he or she doesn't have to pay a penny.
Yeah, exactly.
What a hobby.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. That's the fun part. But we have to remember that we're also given access to frequencies that could be sold. And so part of that service aspect of amateur radio is for people to push the state of the art. And one of the places where that's happening is in the amateur satellite world. So in many ways, we're helping to justify our continued access to our frequencies as well.
Well, you touched on an interesting subject there, Ted. I don't know if you had talked about it or not, too, but everybody is always looking for spectrum space to put all kinds of everything from cell phones, the computer, the wireless, and Wi-Fi and stuff like that. And you literally have to justify that use, a use it or lose it type of thing.
Correct.
And we've heard that for years. We've seen those frequencies literally chopped away. In fact, one of the most popular ham radio bands between 420 and 450 megahertz is under scrutiny now to see if that should be sold off. Again, it's like to the highest bidder, rather than reserving some of that for the public service aspect, the service, the emergency communications provided at no cost by ham radio operators.
Absolutely. And one of the things that the American Radio League and other people are holding up is the fact that, hey, wait a minute, there's some pushing the state of the art forward being done in that band, and it's being done by organizations like ours.
If we didn't have ham radio frequencies, how many things wouldn't have happened by now?
That's exactly correct. And in fact, you could also say that a lot of what we take for granted, like geostationary TV satellites, for example, a lot of that technology, in fact, a classic example is Iridium. The Iridium constellation, the Global Star, the satellite, the low Earth satellite telephones, all of that technology came right out of the ham bands. It came out of the work that a lot of the folks that are standing over here at this booth today were responsible for.
Well, just the idea of cell phones being, you were talking about
absolutely
duplex transmissions with ham radio, where you talk and listen at the same time instead of just one way at a time, like somebody would do on CB or something. Absolutely. If they're not familiar with ham radio. That came out of the research done by hobbyists.
Absolutely. Well, and you could say that Marconi was an amateur. Mm-hmm. I mean, really.
Well, the other thing is that we have TC over IP,
yes.
TCP over IP communications going on, and that was invented by a couple of hams.
All of those protocols came right out of the ham bands. Yeah.
And of course, without that, at this point, you wouldn't even be hearing us at all, because that's
in many ways that's true.
Because this signal travels by means of internet to Monticello, Maine, and without that, of course, it wouldn't be happening.
Yeah.
But you look at the ingenuity of hams. I mean, I would say that there's probably so many more things that are in our world from a technological standpoint, where maybe hams didn't develop the whole thing, but they developed the core principle that someone else has picked up on and said, hey, let's use this out in the commercial arena, or let's market this, or whatever. I mean, there's no telling how much is there. I don't think people realize
It's mind-boggling when you start to think about a lot of the things that we take for granted and in our world. And where they had their roots, and the fact that a lot of that came right out of the amateur radio world. It's just phenomenal.
Well, some of the greatest discoveries in mankind's history has been the lone scientist working in his basement. You can still do that every day with ham radio, whether it's traditional, whether it's using some classic equipment, whether it's finding new uses for new pieces of equipment, a line of code somewhere that nobody had ever come up with for a computer. It's still the individual.
Well, not only that, but a lot of some of the parts that have gone into our satellites have been bought in the Dayton flea market. So it works both ways.
We're here at Dayton now with the biggest flea market in the world.
Some of our stuff, some of our things have come out of warehouses and basements and garages, and I know there's some pieces that went onto our Phase 3D satellite, which was launched back in early 2000. Came right out of the flea market right here at Dayton. So
that's up in space right now.
It's in orbit right now. Came right out of the flea market.
Well, and you consider that what's out there on the flea market came out of somebody's garage and somebody's basement. So I mean, it's like it's come full circle.
Somebody has said that if you can't find it at Dayton, it was never made, and that probably fits.
That's it. Yeah, I mean, I've heard several people at the flea market today bragging to others saying, "Is the first time Dayton?" Yeah. Well, if you can't find it in Dayton, it isn't there, or at least the source of it.
And the other rule is, if you see something, you better buy it, because if you come back, it's going to be gone.
Well, some of the things that are out there now too, it's like you get little chips and parts for 5 cents, 10 cents, things
amazing.
like that. Yeah.
Just amazing.
Incredible hobby.
Yeah, incredible hobby. Anyway, wonderful work, Ted. Appreciate what you're doing.
Now, let me ask a question. Are you guys done chatting now?
I'm sorry. I know we've stolen your show.
See what
here,
you did, Ted. You invited another broadcaster to come along
I've been
with a big
enjoying
mouth.
this. As a matter of fact, well, no, let me tell you what. You've been giving me some ideas here. I need to maybe farm some things out to you, because really this show, doing a 2-hour show every week and then trying to get it.
You got a lot of time to fill.
And you get up on iTunes, and I'll tell you, you're a fantastic guest. You're a great guest. Sometimes I'm not that blessed. I mean, someone will sit down and I'll say, "I understand you're into amateur radio satellites," and they'll say, "Yep." Well, can you tell me about it a little bit? And they'll say, "Well, they're on up there."
Yeah, there they are. They come around every 90 minutes.
So you get the 3-word answers, and that gets And I think sometimes people do that because they get nervous. Some people are just nervous about talking into a microphone.
Well, that's true. Of
course, ham radio operators shouldn't be nervous talking into a microphone.
You'd be surprised how many are.
Well, you mentioned broadcast transmitters as opposed to ham.
Well, still radio. They're just not used to it.
Stop and think about the number of hams you know, and how many hams actually really get on the air and talk. Because there are those that buy the equipment, it's all set up. They might make an occasional contact or something like that, but they're not regularly on the air. Or
their style of broadcasting or their style of operating is to work a DX station, and it's, signal report and how are you and goodbye and put it in the log. And which is another part of the hobby. I mean, that's the nice part about this, is that if that's all you want to do, you can do that.
Well, see, what we're doing right now is we have a transmitter sitting there on 9330 right now. Is that where we're on? And it's turned on, and it's transmitting, and everybody's listening, but it's one way at a time. Ham radio is two-way. You transmit, and then somebody else transmits back to you. You communicate, you interact with each other. It's a whole different way of looking at things. Hams don't broadcast, so to speak. Hams communicate.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. That's exactly what we do. And it's like you said, it's just a wonderful hobby. Anyway.
I was going to say, we have another chair here. I would like to welcome this gentleman to sit down. And
I'm going to go ahead and scoot, because I've got work
Keith,
to do.
I really appreciate your coming.
Oh, my pleasure, Ted. I appreciate what you're doing, because this is really spreading the word, and it's fantastic. I know it's a labor of love. It's probably a lot of work. But
it's a considerable amount of work. But one of the things that we're finding with international shortwave radio, and that is, it's probably the absolute best area for prospective ham radio operators, guys that are listening to HF.
Shortwave listeners.
Yeah.
And that's one of the...
They've got an interest in it.
That's it.
So
Anyway, if you need me, if you want to have me on your show or to talk more about ham radio satellites, be more than happy to help you out.
I've got your card now.
Yeah, I'm in trouble now.
I'll be giving you a call.
He's got my number. Take care, Ted. Thanks a lot.
Thanks so much.
Keith.
And there's a gentleman standing here that I think is going to be real interesting to talk to on the air for a number of different reasons. And I'm going to let him introduce himself as soon as he can put the headphones on and get up on that microphone and say hello to everyone and tell them who you are and what you're doing right now.
Okay, hello, Ted. I'm James O'Neill. I'm a retired broadcast engineer, and for the last 6 years, I've been technology editor for TV Technology magazine. I do a lot of writing for Radio World, some other publications about the radio broadcasting business. Oddly enough, I spent almost 37 years in television engineering, but my first love was radio. I've always loved radio, the power of radio, what you can do with a very simple transmitter, very simple receiver. You can do things globally. Just a fantastic experience and ride I've had in radio.
I'm going to ask you to get a little closer to the mic. And the reason why is you got a conversation going on in back of you, and it's a contest.
I didn't want to work the mic too closely.
Here you go. These are Heil PR40s. They're great mics, and you don't have to worry. But now, your background in radio, I recall seeing some videos up on YouTube. And I'm trying to think, were you not involved in those?